love it. We're already into this interview. I'm here with Richard Sparks, and we're
Yeah.
already saying I'll attest that my lack of knowledge is one of my secrets in my interviewing.
Well, I'll attempt to not fill you in.
Oh,
Leave you as ignorant as the day you were born. What part of the world are you in?
I might be in New York, but I think I am Manhattan, New York, and that's out there in Long Island. The picture behind me.
Excuse me, it's a Long Island, isn't it?
It's a Long
Long,
Island. Yeah,
Long Island. I
you
may be a Brit, but I know that much.
you Brits, you know a lot. You kidding me? Our
Yeah,
national anthem is yours.
yeah, but unfortunately, you kept the country as well.
Well, you know, all's what peace, love, and whatever, and whatever. But the real
Peace,
reality is
peace,
that
loving. Sorry, go ahead.
you also, I think we might even be speaking. Somebody once called it English.
Yeah, isn't it great? Do you remember that a couple of years ago, Donald Trump said they should give Ukraine back to Russia because they spoke Russian? I thought,
Oh,
yeah, give America back to Prince King Charles.
I'm a
Give
John Lennon.
Australia back because he will speak English. Come on back, we need
I
you.
like it. I'm a John Lennonist, so I'm in no countries, no boundaries, no borders. Let's just be brotherly and sisterly, us Homo sapiens. What do you think about that?
I think that's excellent. And if you're a John Lennonist, I must recommend a very small, slim book to you called Give Me a Chance. It's written by Gail Renard, a very, very good British scriptwriter who was my writing partner in England. And then she was later head of our Writers Guild twice. And when she was 17, she was brought up, she was a nice Jewish girl from Montreal. She was brought up in Montreal, and John and Yoko went to do their their live-in, sit-in, whatever it's called, bed-in, and all the kids from her school wanted to go, so she went along. And at the front of the hotel, all the kids from her school were mobbing it. So, being Gail and being brilliant, she went round the back, climbed in through a kitchen window, snuck along through the kitchens, into the service elevator, up the stairs, waited until the security guard went to take a leak, went along to the room, knocked on the door, and became friends for life with John and Yoko. And he gave her the big a cardboard sign with the lyrics of "All we are saying is give peace a chance." He kept
Wow.
his original lyrics were written on a piece of paper. She held it up while they were singing it. And she was
Uh,
17. She said, no sex and drugs happened while she was there.
is she
But
still around? This
oh, yeah. I'm seeing her next week at the book at the launch party for my book New Rock, New Roll. She wouldn't miss that for the world.
all right.
But her book about John Lennon is really good because she's a very good writer, and she's written about an important pop culture event as really well. So it's lovely to have that documentation. Give Me a Chance by Gail Renard.
So you tell her I would like to interview her as well. That that's my thing. That's our thing. Pause the world for peace. It's all about our efforts to try to pause the world.
Oh, she's got even more stories than I do. I mean, when this was like 1975, the Monty Python was over in England. It had finished, and it just hit America. And she wanted to be a comedy writer, so she thought, go to Hollywood from Montreal, go to London. Python came, she said, I'm going to go to London. So, well, by then she was over 17, of course, but she called up her local newspaper and said, I'm going to interview all the Monty Pythons for you. Give me $500. So they did. She interviewed them and then went to London. And John Cleese said, where are you going to stay when you come to London? And she said, I don't know. And he said, well, come and stay with us. So she was living with John and Connie, his then wife,
Wow.
while they were writing 40 Towers. I mean,
Oh,
you cannot have a better education as a comedy writer. And Gail's really good. So yeah, she's a good interview.
and there's nothing like staying with family or friends. I happen to really I enjoy that. I think you get a real sense of the other person in a
Yeah,
nice
but
way.
you can't throw the television out of the bedroom window. They don't like that.
Spamalot's coming to Broadway.
It's funny. I mean, I'm not really a musicals person, but I saw that in New York a few years ago. Thought it was great. I mean, I'm a huge Python fan. I've worked with all of them except Terry Gilliam, but I know him. I've met him socially. The others, when I say work with, I had a piece of comedy in a show that they were doing a sketch in. So I'm calling that working with.
Tell us about. Let's get to the book because I know you want to help the world learn more about it and buy it.
Well, it came out of the blue. Nearly 5 years ago, I started writing the first book. I've now written four in the series, which are going to be published by Kasich Science Fiction and Fantasy, a very good specialist American house. It came out of my love of role-playing games. I'd been spending far too much of my time wandering around these wonderful computer worlds that are created for us by developers and designers, and enjoying the adventures, sometimes with a group of 20 odd people all over the world, going and fighting 20 other people or getting up to mischief, sometimes just wandering about in these beautiful landscapes or spacescapes. And the particular ones that I like are fantasy worlds, sword and sorcery. So I was thinking, well, wow, what would it really be like to be in one of these amazing worlds? What would it really be like to be this guy? There was only one way to find out, and that was to write it. And in a game which has already been written for you, you're limited because the quests are already kind of set. You figure your way through them. There are puzzles and all that, which we love. But if you can't figure it out, just Google the answer to the puzzle and go on to the next bit. You can't do that in a book. And the book is much more open. You can go anywhere and do anything. So I come up with some problems for my heroes to solve. I mean, the premise is that three players running their own avatars win the world championship of sword and sorcery online with tens of millions of people watching, which is what happens. In fact, the weekend I finished the first book, it was the Fortnite World Championship where some 17-year-old kid won $1 million, and there were tens of million people watching. So I just created this worldwide championship of sword and sorcery, which they win in the first chapter. And our narrator is a retired English schoolmaster living all alone by himself in a bungalow on the edge of an English village. And the next thing he knows, he's his avatar. He's standing on the hillside with a sword and a shield going, what? Where am I? What? And there's no sign of his teammates. And he has to survive, and wolves are chasing him, and it gets worse. So it's non-stop adventure with a lot of comedy, of course.
I love this. I think that this is magnificent, and many others, as you say, are really into. I know my grandson. He's playing. He's on that video games. He's doing Madden, something called Madden.
That's the football game. Yeah,
football game.
One of the things that the people, the PR people asked me to talk about in interviews is the rise of older gamers. When I went online, I thought, well, they're all nerdy kids doing that I'm playing with. And then there was something came up in guild chat from the guild master saying, I'm going to be 85 next week. I want to retire. Does anyone want to run the guild? Because she was a really good guild master. Well, I don't, because it's a ton of work.
I'm going to ask you some questions. What's a guild master?
Well, imagine you have a group of friends, like-minded friends, and you trade with them, and anyone can create a guild, invite people into it, and they have raffles. They have you go on raids together against other factions, and it's a trading commercial place, and obviously a lot of work for people to run. So I didn't want to take it on, but it's interesting that people are of all ages play games. The rise of the grey gamer these days is, I think, 35% in the last couple of years of people over 50, over 60 playing the games, because it's they got the money, they got the leisure, and these wonderful worlds that they can explore without having to get on a plane and get malaria.
It's healthy. It's healthy. It's
good for the brain.
You use your brain.
Yeah.
You don't use it, you lose it.
It's also
It's proven. It's proven.
Yeah,
scientifically.
Exactly. I'm not a fan of the first-person shooter type things, which are just target practice and a bit too violent for me. But my hero is a heroic battle mage healer, and he ends up in this world. Is there magic here? I don't know. I've got a crappy sword. I'm screwed. So the hilarity that ensues.
I'm into all this. We created a game. I did the 20th anniversary of Woodstock. With Richie Havens. I wear a freedom tie here.
Wow, good for you.
In any case, I'm a musical guy myself. We've made many shows with Peter Yarrow. I see you have a long history here.
Oh wow, we have ties.
We have a lot of things in common. I'm very Placido Domingo. This is a serious guy, this Richard. All right. So when I had that about the
Hugely
opportunity
serious.
to talk
Uh,
to talk to you, he's a serious comedian. No, he's a serious.
well, it's time. There was a great British comedian called Bob Monkhouse who had one of the best lines ever, which
Uh-huh.
is, "They all laughed when I said I wanted to be a comedian. They're not laughing now."
That's good.
It's
Well, I
that
happen
kind
to.
of thing.
I love the. I'm a Benny Hill guy. I'm a Mr. Bean guy.
Oh,
I'm,
Rowan. Well, Rowan and
I'm
I go back to before he was Rowan Atkinson.
yeah.
But let me say, have you read my biography of Milt Oaken, who produced Peter, Paul, and Mary and John Denver?
No.
I'll send it to you. Give me an address and I'll send it to you at the end of the
Okay.
interview.
Yeah. Let's
He
communicate. 'Cause we're
he was
really.
a wonderful man.
And he's still living, and he would put
No,
a.
he died about 4 days after Trump got in. And almost his
You're
last
not talking
words were,
about Peter. Peter Yarrow's still with
"Oh,
us.
Peter's still alive." Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Noel Paul Stookie did a wonderful song recently, which he sent us called, it was about politics, called something on the Mandolinjo. It's really good. I mean,
Uh,
what talent.
these are brilliant people.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Brilliant. His wedding song is just
And
beautiful.
they'd have been nowhere without Milt, who put them together, who was forced by not Einstein, Newman, Bob Dylan's manager, what's his name, Albert something, who said, take these people on and make them a group. And Milt tried to hand them off everywhere because he
Yeah,
didn't
and,
think
and,
that.
and John Denver, I did a
Yeah.
show back in 1990 with John Denver.
Uh,
It was called Children in the Environment for
uh,
United Nations Environmental Program.
wow.
We
He's
put
a
John
wonderful.
Denver in Japan. And it was a show, and we put all these superstar entertainers in it, and it was all about understanding Earth 90, it was called. A
Well, well,
lot of
so
good stuff.
sad that he's a wonderful man, John. Milt was devastated when he died. Milt tells in the book a story of how he took John to see Meistersinger, which is his favorite opera, John Milt's. John wasn't an opera kid, he's an army brat, brought up all over the world. He absolutely loved it. And he said afterwards, "That's our relationship between Hans Sachs and not Beckmesser, whoever the young guy is." He said, "That's you and me."
Well, what's your Domingo now? Domingo, we're in another level
Oh,
of tenors.
well, there was a poll at the BBC a few years ago asking, I think it was 40 music critics to rate the best tenors of all time, and Domingo won by a landslide. And of course, there are different types of tenor. Domingo is a dramatic tenor. Pavarotti, who's got fabulous lyrical voice, is a lyric tenor. Who's the guy who's very
Ferreri.
Andreas Kaufmann?
Oh,
Andreas
Coleman.
Kaufmann is a very high lyrical, almost. Can you call a tenor a coloratura? I wouldn't know.
I
But yeah,
don't know.
Domingo's an amazing man. He's so gracious. The way that I was sitting next to him once. I wrote a libretto for Hansel and Gretel, translated that and
Oh,
wrote that into a new libretto at the LA Opera, which has been done a number of times. And so we're just sitting there. There's the director, Mad Doug Fitch, with his little box full of tricks, going, the trees go up here, the little shoebox you're looking at. There's just me and Placido, and two women in paint splattered overalls come out of the scene dock, and he immediately stands up, shakes their hand, introduces himself to them, and I thought, wow, you don't get manners like that in Hollywood ever. My father would have loved this guy. He's
I was
amazing.
going to ask you about your father. I was going to ask you about your upbringing, Richard, if you don't mind,
No,
because what led you to the life that you lead?
uh, well, one thing followed, one thing led to another. It was always my intention to write. Um, uh, I'd never considered doing anything else. I had a job for 2 years in television, making trailers and continuity. I hated every day of it. Since then, I've always been self-employed. But I remember saying to people when we were leaving university, what are you going to do when you grow up? And I said, well, I'm going to be a writer. And they said, what, you? What? uh, I'm not a serious literary type. I find serious literary books often quite dull. I like to entertain. I liked, one of the big flattering comments I had about the fourth book in the series that one of my test readers read recently was, I read it all in a weekend. That's 180,000 words. You know, it's 400 odd pages. Just to sit down and just to be gripped by a story, to me, is the great joy of reading. And without narrative drive, I tend to lose interest in books. But you know, I'm a diligent reader if I get going. But I really do like to be picked up by the scruff of the neck and to find a book that I wallow in. That you just, I can't wait to see how it turns out in the end. I don't want it ever to end. This is so. I started off as you know, brought up in a small, on the edge of a small town in England called Cheltenham. My father was a school teacher at Cheltenham College, and then later he and my mother ran a school in Cheltenham called Berkhamsted School, and he was a very good writer himself. His letters to me at boarding school were full of entertainment and jokes and news, and he loved the fact that I enjoyed writing and was very encouraging, even though he kept saying, "How do you survive?" I said, "Well, Mr. Pritchard at National Westminster Bank in Cheltenham has kindly let me have another £1,000 in overdraft." He goes, "Oh, well, I hope you know what you're doing," sort of thing. But he didn't support me after I left college. You know, I wouldn't have. Well, I would have loved it, but I was on my own. Yeah.
The name of the book again. I mean, you and I could talk for 3 hours. I could see if not 30 days straight about good things in the world, positive, life affirming stuff. We have a beautiful, a fortunate life we've led.
We do.
I know I'm very appreciative of mine.
Me too.
And you sound extremely appreciative of yours. The name of the book and where does somebody get it? Yeah, give me the details.
Well, it comes out of my love of role-playing games, ROLE, and A Planet is a Rock, right? Third Rock from the Sun. You've heard of that TV show. So it's called New Rock, New Role, ROLE. There's a website which we've had some disasters with the website. So there's just a holding page up at the moment, and I'm getting a new one built. You can buy it on Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you get it. Or go to www.richardsparks.com and you can get a free audio sample or a free, chapter, e-publication chapter that you can put in your computer or tablet and check it out. And if you like it, you feel free to order the other 36 chapters and read them in the right order. I mean, I suppose I shouldn't compare myself with other people, but if you like fantasy with comic, plenty of comedic touches in it, this might just be for you. I mean, I was a great friend of Douglas Adams's. He was my contemporary and gone too soon, and I wish he was still alive. He might say something nice about my book.
He's saying it's just a little hard to hear at this moment. He's saying it right now.
Oh, sweetheart. Well, he moved to LA to try and get the Hitchhiker film made with his wife, Jane, and Jane was at my university. Douglas was at another one at the same time. So we met in Edinburgh doing reviews, comedy student reviews. And so he and Jane moved with Polly, their daughter, to Santa Barbara. And Douglas was sitting in my backyard, or rather Milt Oaken's backyard, my father-in-law's backyard. And I remember teasing him because Douglas was notorious for not finishing his books on time and not really liking writing. I mean, he was brilliant. I said, "Douglas, if I'd written something as good as Hitchhiker, you wouldn't see me for dust. I'd keep churning them out." And he sort of stiffened and said, "Well, it's not as easy as that." And I felt rather... And then when I got on to writing my second book and third book and fourth book, I now see what he meant, because the first book came flying out in 2 months. Many rewrites, good editor, fantastic editor. Second book took 7 months. The third took a year. The fourth book, a year and a quarter. The fifth book at the moment is, I'm in the early confused stages. But the publishers told me, slow down, we can't keep up with this. So I feel less pressure. But I just want to find out what happens next.
There you go.
And it's difficult. It's not easy, but it's
You're going to figure it out.
You have to.
That. Richard, thanks so much for taking some time to talk with us and sharing some good news. It's a pleasure
My pleasure.
Get a moment to speak with you. Take care.